everyone, I'm Neha Vaswani, and today I will present my investigation on sustainability in the early years, incorporating the outdoor and nature in early childhood settings to foster environmentally responsible behavior in young children. I will now present to you the outline of my presentation. First, I will talk about my main argument, followed by a justification for my research. Then I will supply some background information, followed by key concepts, and then on to my main findings, which are critically discussed against counter-arguments, implications of my research, and finally, a conclusion. Main argument for my research is that I argue early childhood institutions in Australia should engage students in outdoor and naturalized settings to strengthen young children's connection to the environment and thus enable them to display conservatory attitudes towards nature. The reason why I have decided to investigate this topic is because the current era in which children are born into is one that is filled with global environmental issues such as climate change, pollution, gas emissions, and loss of biodiversity. Moreover, children, or early childhood children, are increasingly becoming more and more distant from the natural environment due to factors such as increased use of technology and more rigorous academic requirements, as well as a risk-adverse culture. Finally, it is a main agenda to provide young children with conceptual knowledge about biodiversity, sustainability, and preservation, as well as the value of the environment. I will now share some background information in light to the Australian context. One of the most significant agendas in New South Wales is to have professionals to support a desire for children to nurture and protect what is beautiful, and to encourage them to appreciate that there are possibilities for honouring life and wonders that the world holds. In Australia, the aim of sustainability is to foster in people a sense of responsibility, respect, environment, active participation, inquiry, and a desire for social change. Australian curriculum guidelines advocate for environmental learning for its affordances in developing positive associations with the environment and for promoting physical health. In line with this argument, a key environmental educational researcher, Louise Chandler, also says that interactions with the natural environment does provide healthy child development. These are some key concepts particular to my research. Natural environment is any environment that is not designed or cultivated by humans. Sustainable development is the development which meets the needs of the current generation without compromising the ability for the future generation to meet their needs. Environmental education in the Australian context is that it is learning about the environment and how natural systems function and the interconnectedness of plants, animals, humans, and the planet we live in. There have been notable pedagogical shifts or terminological shifts in the concept of environmental education internationally, with more and more institutions adopting the terms education for sustainable development, ESD, or education for sustainability. More key concepts, these are relevant to environmentally responsible behavior. The first is ecological identity, which a lot of researchers have argued to be the natural extent to which individuals identify with nature, because genetically they believe that humans are born with a code dedicated for their affinity towards nature, and children too display this affinity since they are born. Ecological identity is developed in children through childhood experiences in the environment, as well as proximity to nature and parental roles. There are two sets of dichotomies that are very important for my research, which are ecocentric and anthropocentric, and biophilic versus biophobic. Ecocentric is an approach of environmental education where it seeks to value the environment for its own intrinsic properties rather than what it offers for humans as a resource. But more often than not, educators tend to have an anthropocentric view of nature, instilling in children that nature is a potential gain for human use. The next dichotomy is biophilic versus biophobic. Biophilia is fundamentally a genetically based human need and propensity to affiliate with nature, whereas biophobia is a complete opposite, where it displays fear for the nature or natural environments. It ranges from discomfort to natural places to scorn for whatever is not natural, managed, or air conditioned. These are some findings from my research. There are three main findings. The first one is that place-based pedagogy engages children by arousing their interest and curiosity to the natural world. Unstructured play in the natural world is also important because it provides children with opportunities to learn about the environment firsthand, but through hands-on experiences such as sensorial activities, kinesthetic activities, emotive activities that yield to cognitive development. There are some counter-arguments to this claim because some people are worried that the emphasis on health and safety and the fear of litigation in early childhood settings may cause educators and practitioners to be more reluctant to adopt outdoor education in their curriculum. Also, using place may not always help to shape and teach the curriculum because then places might be objectified for human use. Now, these counterclaims can be easily refuted because safety can always be implemented through close guidance by educators, as well as the place may positively impact students because when students interact with place in a meaningful way, they tend to view nature more valuably. A second finding is that connection with natural environments leads to children's biophilic tendencies, such that when children are connected to nature and understand it, they tend to care for it very naturally and not obligatorily because they're more inclined to do it and not forced to do it. A counter-argument is that some educators and researchers believe that children in the early childhood stage might be too young to worry about environmental degradation and their innocence should be protected. Now, this can be refuted because current research shows that children are now agents for change and they're able to exercise agency to assert their own opinions. Lastly, positive childhood experiences in nature inform perceptions of nature in adulthood. Children who engage with nature in their young life have been known to show conservatory attitudes in their adult life, and a huge body of research indicates this. Now, again, this can be counterclaimed because not all interactions with nature are positive, and thus not all interactions will yield in future biophilic tendencies, so care needs to be taken to ensure that more and more positive interactions occur in children's lives. Now, there are implications to my research, and namely, the most significant one would be the role of teachers. Teachers are viewed as very significant mediators for children's interaction with nature. Teachers' personal dispositions, which they then reflect in their practice, are also very important because they inform their own beliefs into their practice. And teachers' scientific knowledge assists children to build a connection with the natural world through contextual scaffolding. Moreover, teachers are encouraged to mediate but also leave enough room for self-discovery. Since existing teachers and pre-service teachers may not fully understand the scope for environmental learning, there is room for professional development. And the next implication is for best practices. Environmental education in outdoor settings should be conducted in familiar local areas because only in places that children are familiar with can they fully acknowledge its value. As well as children should be encouraged to constantly and frequently visit such places so that they build a stronger connection. Children's agency should also not be minimized in natural settings, and they should be provided with ample time for exploration. I will now conclude by sharing some key points from my presentation. The first is that children feel a sense of belonging in nature and make positive connections with it. Understanding and empathy allows children to foster environmentally responsible behaviors that may extend to their adult life. The connection with the natural environment is best when sufficient teacher mediation is present. Teachers should also be fully aware of the positive impacts of outdoor education. Children and teachers should be allowed to spend enough time outdoors such that they don't have to worry about conflicts in agendas and schedules. and this has serious implications for curriculum designers and policymakers. Children will develop the confidence to then transfer their own understandings of nature into building sustained conservative attitudes in the future. The following are some references for my research. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.